Uh, Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. Hi. Sorry, I
Afternoon,
was
Mr.
Good afternoon, sir.
late.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
So, entrepreneurship cell is back. Huh?
Yes, sir.
So you're raising some funding for your startups.
Yeah, trying to.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. So if you're ready,
Okay.
Monica.
Yes, yes. Yeah, yeah, we are ready. Shania, start.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening to everyone present here with us today. I, Shana Srivastava, Vice President of the Entrepreneurship Cell of Aryabhat College, would like to cordially welcome you all to today's webinar on the topic How to Raise Funding for a Startup. This webinar would act as a lamppost showing the students a path towards being a successful entrepreneur. Through this session, we will explore various methods to raise funds for a startup. Before we begin, I would like to thank our head convener, Dr. Monica Arora, and our co-conveners, Dr. Shivani Raheja and Dr. Ruchi Sharma, who have given us constant support and encouragement, without which this webinar would not have been possible. I would also like to show my appreciation to our noteworthy principal sir, Professor Manoj Sinha, whose unabating support and encouragement has made it possible for us to hold this session effectively. I now welcome a pillar of strength and a source of constant support, our honorable principal sir, Professor Manoj Sinha, to say a few words.
Thank you, Shania. My pleasure being here with you this afternoon, evening, for this lovely session. And I hope some of you pick up the skills that आज कौन तुषार कंसल्टी दे रहे हैं आप लोग? हाँ?
Yes, sir.
आपका तुषार जी बहुत बहुत स्वागत है आर्यभट्ट कॉलेज के इस प्लेटफॉर्म पे.
Thank you, sir.
It's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon, and I congratulate the entrepreneurship cell, all my colleagues who are looking after this, and all the student enthusiasts who look after the entrepreneurship cell so well. You have chosen well. You have called an expert, and I'm hoping that some of you will pick up the skills to, make startups and finance them if you can. Yesterday, your convener, Dr. Monica Agrawal, has also finalized the tie-up with Jawaharlal Nehru University for an incubation center for all these startups. So we will also give you greater facilities at our level to, channelize the ideas that you have. Many times you didn't know where to take your ideas as far as startups are concerned. But Mr. Kansal will give you the real expert advice on how to take it forward and finance it, etc. Do pick up your skills from here. All the best for this afternoon, and I hope, Mr. Kansal, you will find some time to meet with a few questions. My students are very desirous of knowing many things, so do take some questions so that they equip themselves better. Thank you, and all the best for this.
Thank you, Professor Manoj. Thank you, Monica ma'am, and all the other students who are here today. Thank you, sir, for giving such a good guidance to all the students. I will try to answer as many questions as possible. So what I will do is I will keep my presentation between 30 to 35 minutes and then take questions from the students. So should I start, ma'am?
Yes, yes. Please do.
Okay, so I just share my screen. I'm not allowed to share my screen. Can you give me the right, admin?
Yes, sir, it's provided.
Okay, sure. Just a so how to raise funds, what investors want, these are all a part of the same questions. Background about me, I have worked in corporates like Deloitte and Touche and Times of India's venture arm called Brand Capital. And my company is a venture advisor with the Canadian venture capital fund Loyal VC. And I have delivered more than 100 talks in the last 1 year. Did my executive education from Harvard Business School and MBA in finance from University of Delhi and engineering from TIT Bhiwani. So usually when we approach investors, we give them a pitch deck. Pitch deck is a 15 to 16 slide document which covers very crisply a lot of points which the investors are asking for. Now, before coming to importance of a pitch deck and the information needed by investors on the business proposition, let me give you a very brief background. See, the investors, they they are someone who are of two classes. One is venture capital funds, the other one is angel investors. And then we have certain other companies who provide funding, like they are called accelerators, incubators, like about the incubator. And then government also provides funding. Indian government provides between 25 to 50 lakhs in case you need funding from them for your startup. But the process is a bit long, so it takes some time to get that funding. And angel investors are two types of investors. One is Indian angel investors who are earning in rupees. Typically, they invest small money between 1 lakh to 40 lakhs, usually in the range of 15 to 25 lakhs. And the dollar angel investors, they invest more money because they earn more. So if you have a Singapore banker or a Hong Kong banker or a Dubai banker, probably they can even give you 2 to 4 crores. So this is about angel investors. And always remember, nowadays everyone is an angel investor. Everybody sees the media and these figures, $100 million, $50 million. So everybody wants to make money by investing. So even industrialist families are angel investors, and job salaried people are angel investors. And so a lot of people are angel investors. When it comes to venture capital funds, then we have typically venture capital fund guys. There are two types of people in VC funds. One is general partner, the other one is limited partner. And then they have a principal, and then they have analysts. So analyst sees the deal, discusses it with the principal, then they go to the general partner. General partner, he evaluates the whole deal. Then general partner decides whether to put the money or not. And the money comes from limited partners. Limited partners are those people who have given their money to the venture capital fund led by general partner. And so general partner goes to limited partner also has a right there are some matters which are put in a section in the term sheet. It is called reserved matters. So any of those matters which happen in the company, you have to disclose and take permission from the investor. And the reserved matters can be like, you are employing a high salaried CXO. So that is one. If you are selling a big asset of the company, that is one. If you are opening a new subsidiary of the company, that can be one. If you are entering a new market, that can be one. So the investor puts in a lot of things in the reserve matters, and those matters have to be discussed with the investor. Uh, so those are the rights which the investor has. Then the investor is putting in his money into your company because he wants to exit the investment after 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, and make money. So if he's taking 16 to 25% of shareholding in your company, end of the day he wants to get out at a good valuation. So he has exit clauses in the term sheet. So exit clauses would mean, uh, the first exit clause is that after a period of 5 years, the company will come out with an IPO on the stock market. So if the shares of the company are trading on the stock market, the investor can sell his shares anytime. The second point is that exit clause is that the company will buy back the equity from the original investor by giving him the promised return. And return in terms of equity is always calculated by a term which is called internal rate of return, IRR. So 20 to 25% IRR is promised to the investor. So the company will buy back the equity from the investor by giving him the IRR, promised IRR. Third option is the founder of the startup will buy back the equity from the investor by giving him the return. The fourth option is the company will find a new investor by appointing a third party valuer who will value the company at that time and get the exit to the original investor. The fifth option is if all these four does not happen, then the company will do a merger and acquisition. So it will merge into another company, and so in the process of merging the shares, the original investor somehow gets an exit. And then there are other ways nowadays. There are special purpose acquisition vehicles which are called SPACs, and that is one route which has opened up a lot in the last 2 years. So term sheet, broadly, I have given you the features of the term sheet. It has many things. It has anti-dilution rights, vesting rights. It has many things. That is a different subject, but focusing right now on the information needed by investors on the business proposition. Now, the investors, if you are talking to an analyst of a fund, this guy is typically from a Ivy League college, typically from INSEAD, Harvard, Stanford, IIT, IIM, ISB, typically from these places. And uh, many times the analysts and the principal and the general partner, they have never done a business themselves. So you might be feeling that I am explaining my business in a great way, but these guys are talking theory. They are not talking practical stuff. So don't feel that you are feeling a wrong thing. Many times actually these guys don't know. So it is, they keep on talking to new companies every day, and that's how they learn also. So they have something called the investment thesis. And investment thesis means that on what grounds will the investor invest in your company. So like the sector, they will say that we will invest only in education technology or financial technology, fintech. Secondly, what is the stage of the company at which we invest? Stages of the company are pre-seed, seed, pre-series A, Series B, Series C, Series D, and so on. So they will say we will invest at pre-series A or Series A. Then they will say what is the ticket size, how much will they invest? They have a range there. Then they will say that what is the geography in which we will invest. So they might say we will invest in Indian companies or Southeast Asian companies or South Asian companies. So all this investment thesis is usually given on their website. They disclose it. And if you want to really understand which of the funds will invest in your company, you'll have to go to their websites, study the investment thesis. Now, informally, let me tell you something. If you want to become a startup guy and learn a lot, raise funding, $5 million, $100 million, maybe starting with $100,000 or $500,000, which is 3.5 crores. So, if you are wanting to become a guy who raises funding, get your Google presence right. Google presence means anybody who searches your name, what is the first 10 and 20 results? Nowadays nobody goes beyond 20. So first 10 is the most important. So somebody searches my name, you will get newspaper articles, media articles. I used to have a blog which had 26 lakh hits, and the Russian hackers took it down, so I could not restore it. But at that time, when anybody used to search my name, 2014 and 13 and 15, they used to get my articles and they used to see how many hits are there. So it is so much easier to make a name for yourself in front of the investor if your Google presence is right. So how do you build your Google presence? Write blogs. Write blogs on medium.com. Then on YouTube, it is so easy to have a video on YouTube. You can shoot your friend's video, the friend can shoot your video. Just talk about what is your passion and something new you have discovered in your field of work, some new learnings you have. Put them as a quote on your blog, put them as a quote on your social media. So all these things, anybody who, if you get an introduction with the investor, then the investor, before talking to you, he will, for the first 10 minutes, want to know who you are, and at some point he will also search about you on Google. How to meet the investor? There are events where investors come to give talks, and nowadays all these events are happening online. So once you tell them that we were there at a talk with you, you approach them on LinkedIn, and on LinkedIn you send them a connect request, but with a personalized connect. So you give a paragraph that I met you there, we exchange our visiting cards, or you were there online in an event. I really like the event, you spoke very well, I want to connect with you for business. So this guy will give you time. But the best way to get an intro with an investor is through the founder of their investee companies. So they have invested in some companies. The founders of those companies, if you have, you can tell them to introduce you to the investor. And if they introduce, then the investor will take you very seriously. That this person is coming from the office of the founder of the company where he has invested. So he will take your case very seriously. Otherwise, you go by LinkedIn or any other connection. But always search a very serious connection. Don't search by we met in a party, and generally, your weight will also go down in front of the investor. And then the information needed by investors on the business proposition. These are the 14 points. I will discuss them today, and then I will take questions from you. The first thing is problem statement. What is the problem facing humanity? Now, some people, they have a business which is not impacting a lot of lives. It is impacting lives in a very passive way, not a very active way. So what would be the active way? So, there was a taxi problem in India. It was simply impossible to find the black and yellow taxis, especially in north side. And so Uber solved it, and it solved it by using technology, and it solved it by using the most popular platform, which is the smartphone. And smartphone is a very sticky product. it sticks to your hands for 8 hours, 10 hours, because all the data of people is being available with Google, Amazon, Facebook, and these people have mapped the entire user base of the world. So the technology friends of mine say that Google has mapped 7 billion out of the 8 billion global population. Each person they have mapped on 700 parameters. Where does this person live? Where does he travel? What he likes to eat? What is happening in his life? And all this information, they are crunching that information using artificial intelligence and machine learning. So that's why smartphone is a very sticky product. It will show you those videos which you really like automatically. It will show you those products which you really want. So if you are talking to somebody on the phone that, Ashish, I need a lawyer. And the moment you keep down your phone and you are on any internet product like laptop or mobile, you will start seeing advertisements of lawyers, of legal firms. You will start seeing posts of legal firms because everything is connected. They have agreements with each other. Amazon, Netflix, Facebook, Google, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is part of Microsoft. Microsoft. They have agreement to share each other's data. And so, the problem statement is very important. You should be solving a human problem. Nowadays, I see so many electric vehicle companies. They are solving the environmental problem. And environmental problem is a big problem. Look at the weather phenomena. Weathers are becoming so haphazard and very fierce. In Delhi, a 46-year-old record has been broken this time. It has been raining for 3.5 months. And, the fridges of the world's fridge is Arctic and Antarctica, where the ice is stored. And it is getting melted. Once that ice goes away, the temperature of the earth can rise like 4 degrees. Then how will the flora and fauna survive? So the countries have signed Paris Act, and Paris Act has mandated targets to each country to reduce their greenhouse emissions, to correct the global warming. So all these electric vehicle companies, somebody is trying a hydrogen battery, somebody is trying a new kind of solar companies. All these are problems, good problems to solve using available solutions. And if your solution uses technology, then it will be scalable. It will be very easy to grow it. Because growing something offline, it costs a lot of money. But growing something using technology, the smartphone, it does not cost that much of money. Because digital marketing is content-led. So I hope you understand what I'm saying. Digital marketing is all about quality content. So that is the solution. Now the third thing is team behind. Team behind is most important. End of the day, the investor is betting on horses, and these horses are the founders and the co-founders. So make a balanced team. You have a finance guy, you have a technology guy, you have a product guy, then you have a chief marketing officer. He is not a founder, co-founder, but he has some shares of the company. So the shares of the startups, some of them are given to the employees. So they are called ESOPs, employee stock option plans. So, you have some ESOPs with them. So a very balanced team. Because if it's a single founder company, many investors don't like it. And if the founder is coming from a very rich background, but he does not know much about the business, it will be very difficult to get funding. But 99% impossible. So, the team behind is the most important. You know what investors say? They say that even if the product is faulty, a good team will correct the product sooner or later. But if the team is not good, then they will keep on going with the wrong product. They won't innovate. So that is the importance of the team. Market size and opportunity is most important. Market size means that suppose you are investing in a education technology company, then after COVID, everybody knows how to use online platforms. Look at the valuation of Zoom. Zoom was listed on the stock exchange. It was having a market capitalization, which means the value of the company, hardly $5 billion. And after COVID came in, this has crossed $50 billion. So the market size available to Zoom to grow its business grew a lot after COVID. And if you are operating in a very small market, naturally, you can't really capture more than 50% of the market. So naturally, your revenue won't be that much. And if your revenue won't be that much, the valuation of the company also won't be that much. So that is the importance of market size. Then product. So there are 3-4 stages of a startup. One is proof of concept. Second is minimum viable product. So when you create a product and you try to sell it to some sample customers and they give you money for it, it means your product is sellable. And so the third stage is PMF, product market fit. So it's like when you already have a product and then you decide to have 4 versions of the product for different type of customers, a cheaper variety and a costlier variety, and each having different distribution, each having different product positioning, each having a different marketing go-to-market strategy. So when all this is sorted out, so for sorting out all this, you would need to do primary and secondary research about your customer. And once all this is sorted out, in our startup language, we say that product market fit has been established. And PMF is always, of a particular market. So the PMF established in India won't be the same as a PMF established in some other country. India is a very price conscious, quality conscious, service conscious market. So the PMF, which is established in a market like India, is valued a lot by the investors because they can take that PMF and the product to any market and do well. Because India is the most difficult market. And look at what the businessman faces in India. He faces a very high interest loan, debt. Getting debt is not easy. Land has some other issues. It's costly. Then, there are license issues. A lot of things have been solved in the last few years. But, facing a very price sensitive market, a difficult customer. So all this form a part and package of entrepreneurship, which if you go by the words of Elon Musk and all the people who have done it in their lifetime, it is not easy. Then business model. Business model means how will your product earn? What is the earning model behind the product? 60% to 70% startups, they close down because their product does not have a customer, because they created a product which nobody wants to put money in. They created a wrong product. So it's very important to have a very well researched business model behind your product. And you can always pivot the business model. If something is you have an education business, then suddenly COVID comes. So you start an online business also. So that's called pivoting the business model, changing it. And then traction is very important. Traction means that what is the business you are doing currently, abhi how much you are selling, uh, and what is your operating profit. We call it EBITDA, earning before interest, taxation, depreciation, and amortization. So that is called operating profit. And what is your net profit? So that is the traction. A lot of founders come to me. They say that we are pre-revenue and we need funding. So, see, the investor finds it most difficult to put money in a pre-revenue company. You won't get a good valuation. Uh, so, if you are just starting out, you are pre-revenue, the valuation which you will get is less. If you want a good valuation, when you don't have any revenue, then you need to do some things. Like this organic company had come to me, zero revenue, but they had the organic formulations. They had prepared the organic formulations, and the formulations were complying with the toughest standard for organic available in the market, called EcoCert Cosmos V3. And so what they did was they went to 28 distributors and got letters of intent signed from them. They went to the biggest distributor in Middle East called Sara LLC and got the letter from them. And they had the letter also from the EcoCert Cosmos V3 certified manufacturing company in India that we will manufacture your formulations are fine. After doing so much of work, when we approached the investor, it was a pre-revenue company, but the investor, we got them 4 crore rupees at a valuation of 25 crores. So if you haven't done all this work and then you have a pre-revenue company, the valuation which you will get is 2 crore, 3 crore, 4 crore. And if you have revenue of say 40-50 lakhs per year annual, then you might get a valuation of 7, 8 to 10 crores, maybe 12 crores also. But in this case, they had arranged the letter of intent from the whole market, and they had the formulations to show. They also had a letter from EcoCert Cosmos V3 people that they will issue a certificate on these formulations. So they did all this work, so they got 25 crore valuation. 10 Club is another company. They had letters of intent worth $15 million. $15 million worth of letters of intent they had. And they got seed capital of $40 million, almost 300 crores. So if you want to get valuation, do some work, run around, hustle. In our world, it is called hustling. You hustle, and then you will get a good valuation. The next point is competitor analysis. Who are your competitors and the competitive advantages? How are you different? How are you better? Maybe you can map everything on 4-5 points. You say that this competitor has this feature, I have this feature, so I am better. So then the next is financial projections. You have to make a financial model. In the financial model, you have to put in how much money you require for expansion. How will that money get used? In the next 5 years, what is the turnover, operating profit, and net profit which I will generate in the next 5 years? And that model, you should really understand well. I met a founder of a company. He was a physiotherapist from a hill state in South India, Mount Abu. Physiotherapist. And when he met me in a 5-star hotel coffee shop, he took a napkin and explained me the entire business of electrical vehicles, right from market size to what is Chinese market doing, what is Indian, and everything he explained in figures, everything in numbers, that this is the business case. Don't go about that I am a physiotherapist. Don't go about that I have never done a startup. I did a startup in Mount Abu which failed. But look at this business which is there, which is I can answer each question. He got funding. He is now a 200 crore business in 6 years. So, it's very important to have your numbers and financial modeling right. You should not be scared by it, but you should understand your numbers. The next is the ask. How much funding you are asking for in dollars and in rupees. And then the use of funds. How much of that funding will you use for marketing, HR, team building, for launching new markets, and always remember that the investor likes to give you money for a cash burn of 12 months and 18 months, ideally 18 months. So whatever next 18 months you require, the cash you require, investor likes to give you money for 18 months because he doesn't want that you leave all your business and concentrate on fundraise all the time. Like, elections in India keep on happening. So how will you govern? All the time you are busy in elections. So last is future roadmap. Future roadmap means in the next 5 years or 10 years, 5 years or 3 or 5 years, what will be your customer base 1 year from now? How many offices will you open maybe 1.5 years from now? So any numbers besides financial numbers, like how many customers, how many units you will sell, what will be the size of your team. So, all that journey, the planned journey. So this is about the information needed by investors. Once you perfect yourself on each of these 14 points, and then some more things also like your go-to-market strategy, your distribution strategy. Once all this is sorted out, then you are good to go and raise money. So I will show you the slides. I have already discussed them. Problem statement, solution, team behind, market size, product and business model, traction, competitor analysis, competitive advantages, financial projections, ask and use of funds, future roadmap, and this is the sample roadmap, and finish. So this is about all that I wanted to tell you today, and happy to answer your questions and take it forward from here. And also, I would request all of you, let's connect on LinkedIn so that I'm able to if any of you need further help, maybe my company can help, or I don't know. So I'm just putting my LinkedIn profile here for your benefit. Thank you so much.
If anyone has any questions, you can write it in the chat box or you can just unmute yourself. So till the time the students are asking question, I had a personal one that when do you think it's the right time for a business to bring in an investor? Because sometimes some businesses bootstrap and they just keep putting in money back into the business, and some of them go through loans and they believe that debt is cheaper than equity. So when do you think it's the right time to bring in an investor?
So, see, what are the options available for you? I mean, ideal way is we call it bootstrapping. Bootstrapping means that you are putting in your own money. So the ideal way is that you bootstrap the business till the time you get your PMF, the product market fit. Till the time that is established and the revenue starts coming in, because that is the time when you will get good valuation. So we have a term in our startup world called FNF, friends and family. So taking money from friends and family is very much allowed, in the sense you can take some money from them, and naturally you give them equity also. I mean, the problem with debt is that debt is not so easily available for startups. You need to have cash flows in the company to service that debt, service the interest rate of the debt. And then you need to give them a real estate, a property as collateral. And once you have a cash flow and a real estate as collateral, then they will give you debt. But in the US, Y Combinator platform gives between $100,000 to $500,000 at the start of the company. And one of the clauses which Y Combinator signs is, if later on you do well and you have cash flows, then you can return the money which you took from Y Combinator as a debt, give them some interest rate and return it back. So that's a very beautiful option which is there in Y Combinator and some other platforms. But in India, initial debt is not available. And the best is take some money from friends and family and hustle. Hustle means a lot of people will work for you because you have good dreams and you are good motivator. So you involve a lot of people, young people, build something and then give them some ESOPs, give them some shares, and motivate them with that these shares will become very good value very soon. So Freshworks is a company which was started 10 years back. In 10 years, it has made a valuation of $10 billion. And out of the staff of Freshworks, 500 people have become millionaires, dollar millionaires, because they had ESOPs. So naturally, anybody who participates in your success journey will make a lot of money in the future. So, you do all of this and you take money after PMF, once your revenue is there.
Okay, that's very helpful, sir. We have a question in the chat box. So Kartikeya Sridhar asks, at what age one should start? I think what he means to us is, at what age should we start up? Is it early on in our lives or after we gain some experience?
There is no formula, Mark Zuckerberg started in second year of college. And I was judge and mentor at an event of entrepreneurship cell of IIT Mumbai. And one of the top 10 finalists, he buzzed me on LinkedIn. Then he called me. He was talking on chat also. And I was like, you are amongst the top 10. So how did you create it? And this guy was in 7th class. And I was like, you are in 7th class? And I could not believe it, man. When 7th class, and so there is no time. Brij Mohan Munjal, who created Hero Honda and later Hero FinCorp, Motocorp, he started at the age of 60. And there is no time, a good time, but naturally, the day you feel that you understand the sector and the business, and you have a conviction that whatever you are trying to create will disrupt the market. If you have that conviction, you start.
Thank you, sir. I had a question. Sir, how is an ideal financial model structured?
An ideal financial model will first of all estimate the revenue. That how much revenue will I make in the first year, second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year. So it will start by how many units you will sell, what will be the price of each unit. Out of that, some units won't sell, so that will be a cost. Then you estimate all your cost. What is my fixed cost, what is my variable cost. Once you have the fixed cost and variable cost and you deduct this cost from revenue, you will get operating profit. After you get operating profit, then you put taxes and depreciation and those things. Then you will get a net profit. And the amount needed to sell those many units, you will have to calculate separately. That will be the investment, and that investment will be a part of the balance sheet, and the profit and loss which I have told you will be a part of the profit and loss sheet, and there will be an assumptions sheet which will assume how many months of working capital, it will assume what is the pricing of setting up the technology platform, what is the salary you will pay out, how many team people will you keep, uh, what is the cost of, if you are a retail company, what is the cost of taking a retail outlet on rent, and all those assumptions will be there in the assumption sheet. So you will build your profit and loss, then you will build your balance sheet, and then you will build your cash flows. And from your cash flows, you can really see how this business will perform, because cash flows are the main barometer of judging a business.
So I have a question.
Okay, let's go one by one. Deeksha, you can go ahead.
Okay. So actually, I wanted to ask how much stake should be offered to investors?
When you are starting out initially, some people, they tell me we will give only 10%. But the investor is not happy with 10% when he is the first investor to put money in your company. So he will ask for minimum 16%, 18% to maximum, like not maximum, but 25%. So between 16 to 25% is what you give to him in the first round. In the future rounds, the next round, you give between 10 to 12%. And then in Series A, Series B, you give 5 to 7%. So initially, between 16 to 24, 25%.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Digvijay, you can go ahead.
Okay, so good evening. So I've been listening to your talk, and I understood how COVID has kind of transformed how startups are being looked at. So my question is, like post-COVID, tech, like before COVID also, but post-COVID, tech has been the mantra, and it has given a lot of growth. But my question is, there are two different models. Like I see DMart, which is a brick and mortar store, and is getting a good valuation, and I also see Zomato, which is kind of a online entity, but is also getting a good value. My question is, do investors look at a brick and mortar store, like a chain of brick and mortars, as a investment perspective, or else, or is it neglected due to a low growth, maybe? Yeah.
So look at what happened with the brick and mortar retail stores. Uh, Future Group, which is the largest in India, they immediately came under pressure because suddenly their cash flows vanished. And as it is, if you look at the retail sector in India, the problem is high rentals. Just look at the good markets around you. You will keep on seeing shops will open 2 years back. They will, after that they will close. Then a new outlet will come. They will open. Then it will close. So anybody who has taken the retail on high rent is, will definitely fail, because end of the day you are in a price sensitive market like India. So if the kirana wala next to your store is giving a 10-15% discount, so you might have the beautiful retail outlet, but you will also have to give 10-15% discount. So retail DMart, if you look at the DMart's strategy, their first component of their strategy is to take outlets on very low lease rentals. Their first target is very low lease rentals, and that is one of the core of their success. And they give huge amount of discount on their products. That's why people line up to buy from DMart. The other thing is Zomato. So we are living in a world where a lot of investment money is chasing asset classes to get a return. So people are lining up behind stock markets, behind commodities exchanges, behind forex, betting on forex, which means betting on other currencies. And cryptocurrency, we are betting huge. 10 crore Indians have put money in cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is a so-called asset class which does not have any value. It cannot be used as a currency. It is a number on the screen. You are buying a number on the screen. 10 crore Indians have put money. So look at the amount of money which is now. What happens is when a company is amongst the top 3 in a particular sector, then the amount of money available is really not a problem. You have Chinese, you have Americans, Japanese, you have Middle East sheikhs, you have so much of money options available. So Zomato got the valuation because it is amongst the top 3 in the food delivery sector in India. And it has huge amount of losses. And in India, doing a hyper local kind of business with high operational cost is always a big challenge. Controlling costs on that is not easy. So Zomato got the valuation because it's in the top 3, and DMart gets its valuation because it has very good cash flows. Now, if you want to decide whether to create a brick and mortar business versus an online business, if you follow the right strategy, then clearly money is to be made in both the businesses.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a few questions in the chat box. All those who have any questions can write it there as well. So Smriti Dayal asks, if you have started out as an LLP, then should you convert a company before raising funds?
End of the day, you will have to convert it. So, if you don't convert it now, then the investor will tell you that he will put in his money only after you convert it into a private limited company. So you can tell the investor, let the investor issue a term sheet, and the moment you have a term sheet in your hand signed from the investor, and you like the clauses, and you have accepted the term sheet in written, you have done the acceptance part, at that time you can convert it. Converting does not take too much time. Nowadays, with ease of business, India has grown up on the rankings quite a lot. So converting does not take much time, but you will have to convert it sometime or the other.
Okay.
I had a question.
Sure.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so as an investor, how do you see a startup founders? Like, if someone is from IIT Bombay, SRC, and if someone is from a tier 2 college, so do the investors have any favorism unknowingly?
It is not unknowingly, it is knowingly. All the people from Ivy League colleges, they help their college alumni. And, all these fund guys, they are from Ivy League colleges. So they keep on taking people from there. And one of the reason why parents pay 2.5 crore fees for Purdue, for Stanford, is the alumni network. End of the day, the infrastructure you will enjoy for 4 years. End of the day, how better college classes can they give you? They can have better methodology, they can have better this, but end of the day, it is the alumni network, because with alumni network comes trust. So if you want to open a VC fund, you need the investors to trust you. How will they trust you? They don't know you. So you fix a meeting with them. In the 1 year, if you try to fix meetings with pension funds, $800 billion KKR, BlackRock, you will get 2 meetings in 1 year. Now in 2 meetings, will that guy give you his $100 million? Or will he go on the alumni network, find people from there and give his $100 million? So he will put his trust more in the alumni network. This is a human psychology. And that is the reason why if you want to enter the VC world, you enter in 2 ways. Either 3 ways. One is Ivy League college. The other is you do a CFA. You do a CFA from the American institute. Don't do it from the Indian institute. So you will get a chance into VC funds because they want people who can crunch the numbers on Excel sheet. And the third option is if you have a successful startup, they will take you as entrepreneur in residence. It is called entrepreneur in residence. So they like to take people who have hustled it in the market and who have created a successful startup. So once you get an exit on the startup, you can join a VC fund. They will take you. Even if your startup fails, but tries to do something, they will take you. They like failures also because you tried and in the process you learned. So even if your startup doesn't do well or does well, they will take you. So these are the three ways in which you can build a career in a VC fund.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
I had a question.
Please.
When does a startup get to a benchmark that now it can go for an IPO and all?
IPO is governed by SEBI, Securities and Exchange Board of India, and the rules of SEBI are amongst the most difficult rules available in the whole world. And in India, coming out with an IPO is very difficult. But recently, SEBI has changed the rules. I will explain to you, there was a retail portion in the IPO 50% which was causing a problem. They have reduced it to 10%. So whatever your IPO issue size, 10% of that money should be raised from individuals, which are called retail, like people like you and me, putting 1 lakh rupees each, maximum 1 lakh. So that used to be a problem in these IPOs. If somebody is coming out with 6,000 crore IPO, how to sell 3,000 crore out of that 6,000 crore to individuals, to retail, 1 lakh rupees each. And if you are not able to sell, your IPO will devolve. It will leave you a bad name in the market, like it happened with Emaar MGF. So the IPO rules have been changed because all these startups were putting pressure on the government that we will go and list ourselves on Singapore Stock Exchange or NASDAQ or New York Stock Exchange. So the government said, no, we can't have our companies go out and list in global stock exchanges. So they changed the rules. So now, and they also have a SME exchange, small and medium enterprises exchange for small amount of issue sizes. But if you want to do your IPO in NSE, National Stock Exchange, or BSE, Bombay Stock Exchange, then your issue size has to be a minimum of, I think it's around 100 crores or something.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's move on to a chat box question. Parik Sethi asks, we've seen a lot of startups recently bootstrapping in the early stages and raise funds from the community as well. Where do you see the future of VC funding, especially in the tech?
There is no end of money available in tech funding. The money is so much available that a company like Tesla, which will make its first profit in 2023, the valuation of that company on the stock market is $1 trillion. So it is more than the combined value of all other automakers. So Google's value is $1.6 trillion. Amazon is $1.8 trillion. We are talking about trillions of dollars. So money is not a challenge. And money has no color. Deng Xiaoping of China said, money has no color. So you have Chinese people who are willing to put money in India. You have Americans. You have, huge amount of money. That's not a challenge. But your tech should have something unique. It should ideally have created a new patent, a new intellectual property. That is the challenge.
Sir, in that question that you have patent, so how do we get that patent kind of stuff for our tech startups?
There are intellectual property patent agencies who file the patent. If you want, you can file international patent sitting in India. And with the patents, a lot of governments, they give you money if you give them your patent as a collateral. So Singapore is the number one country in the world in terms of giving you money against your patent. They will keep your intellectual property as collateral, give you millions of dollars, and then later on you can give them the money back and take away your intellectual property.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's move on to another chat box question. Suraj Kumar asks, aquaponics, if I'm pronouncing it right, is a food production system that is totally based on organic system. So his question is that this sector is not so in the limelight. So how to convince the investors to invest in such a business?
I had heard of hydroponics. I think aquaponics is the same thing. It means that you are growing agriculture without the use of soil.
Yes, sir, that's the one.
See, you have to understand, you are living in a country which is called the food bowl of the world. The total available area for agriculture in India is huge because we are living under the Himalayas. Lot of rivers, lot of fertile soil. Problem is population. Otherwise, we would have been world leaders in agriculture. Now, aquaponics would not have got so much because it is required in those countries where fertile soil is less. Like 80% of China is non-fertile. So they can use that over there. Or in countries with a lot of snow and ice, like Russia, they can utilize hydroponics there. But in India, the soil is not a problem. So, ultimately, the ground level conditions, they decide how money will get allocated, because every bit of money which gets allocated to any activity is looking for a return. So, today you set up hydroponics in India. If you are able to improve the productivity by 5 times or 4 times or 3 times, then investor will say, I will put in my money. But if he says, in any case, fertile soil is not a problem, we already have lots of it, then why will he put the money?
Yes, sir. Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, sir, just to follow up on a question I asked earlier. I agree, like, there's a lot of money in the market. The question I was trying to get to was, say, the internet recently has caused like bootstrapping, like we see Zoho, Wazirex, etc. These companies raising on their own. So going into the future, the question I was coming to was, do you think a startup founder would go for the VC funding option? Because a lot of investors in the market often don't have kind of a skin in the game. So do you think that VC funding, what do you see the future of VC funding? Where do you see it going? Do you think a startup founder would go on that side, or more and more will go towards, community and raising from there?
Thank you. So the thing is, Zoho is a unicorn, more than $1 billion valuation. It is called a unicorn. And Freshworks, 10-year-old company from India, listed in the Nasdaq at a valuation of $10 billion. Both of them never took investor money. They are bootstrapped. Bootstrapped companies, original companies coming from India, becoming unicorns, it shows that it is not necessary that you take investor money. But I'll urge you to look at a sector which is called D2C, direct to consumer. It means selling your products through your own website. So D2C was a zero value sector in India as recent as 2015. and today it is a $4 billion sector. So companies like Mama Earth, Boat Headphones, Licious, Licious has become a unicorn 2 days back. 2 days back. So all these companies, if you compare them with single product companies which started 2 decades back. So a company which started 2 decades back took 20 years to reach a turnover of say 100 to 400 crores. And Licious and Boat and Mama Earth and there is a coffee company also, they reached a turnover of 100 crores in 4 years and raised huge amount of money. So ultimately, if that money is required for you to grow and you are getting it in good terms, then take it, because the value of the company will grow very fast. So naturally you will make huge money. If you are in a sector where you are getting a bad deal from the investor, the clauses are not good, you are not getting a good valuation, and for scaling your company fast, you really don't need outside money, then don't take it. But end of the day, you have to look at what do you want to achieve and how fast. And those are the two parameters on which you should decide whether to take money or not, outside money. Growth is there in both cases, bootstrapped also and with VC money also.
Right. Thanks, sir.
I think we've received an overwhelming amount of questions. So we'll just move on to the last one. Lakshay Jain asks, what should we look for in an investor?
See, I told you money does not have any color. Deng Xiaoping, who made China what it is in 30 years from a $0.5 trillion economy to a $15 trillion economy, this growth has not been achieved in the history of this planet in such a short time. So if the investor is giving you money in good terms, and the background of the investor is they have a good reputation in terms of helping the company also, not giving the money, but not only giving the money, but helping the company also, then you take money from them. And VC money, typically, end of the day, everything the VC wants is growth. They will keep on asking you for growth. So if you don't have that mentality, I don't want to become a $1 billion company, I want to live in peace, I am happy with a 30 crore company, mera ghar chalta hai. If you have that mentality, don't take VC money. And take VC money only if you are ready for fast growth. And the VC should help you out in your business. Apart from, he should help you out by getting you business. He should help you out by getting you right management knowledge from experienced people. And he should also keep some money for your follow-on rounds, because in the follow-on rounds you will need an investor who will lead the round. So if your VC is keeping some money for your follow-on rounds, he is a good VC.
I think due to the paucity of time, we will just wrap it up here.
Sure.
Over to you, Shania.
Thank you so much, sir, for this informative session. I'm sure that I speak on everyone's behalf when I say that it was truly an educational and interactive session. We all learned new and useful things. I would also like to...
Sorry.
Yes. Please go ahead.
No, I was saying thank you, and anybody who wants to reach out can reach me through LinkedIn. And it was really well managed. And if you want, you can give me a recommendation on LinkedIn. So that would be really nice. And thank you each one of you for sparing your time and coming to listen.
Thank you so much. I would also like to thank everyone who joined us today and made the session a success. A huge thanks to our convener and principals for supporting and encouraging us. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Please share the recording with me today.